News from Russia and around the world. This is RT with me, Yulia Shapovalova. Thanks for joining us. The British Parliament has vowed overwhelmingly against holding a referendum on UK membership of the European Union. A motion for a nationwide ballot was defeated by 483 votes to 111. A petition of over 100,000 citizens' signatures has called for debate. Prime Minister David Cameron has said that he respects the views of those supporting his country leaving the Union, but the timing now is wrong. The vote wasn't binding on ministers, but the debate was supported by more than 60 members of David Cameron's party, the biggest internal challenge he's faced as Prime Minister. Meanwhile, European leaders are expected to take the final decision on the faltering Greek economy at a Crunch summit on Wednesday. The President of the European Council, Herman Van Rompuy, is asking for closer fiscal cooperation between the Eurozone countries, but John Gaunt, a member of the Vote the UK Out of EU.co.uk organisation, says British taxpayers do not want to pay Greek debts.
The fact is, 100,000 people signed a petition. That was David Cameron's idea. In fact, there's been almost 500,000 people have signed petitions. It was Cameron's idea. If enough people signed a petition, they'd debate it in Parliament. That's what's happening today. Although what has happened is all three political leaders of the three main political parties have effectively colluded. They're telling their MPs which way they have to vote. So tonight we've got a disgusting attack on democracy in the home, the mother of all parliaments, where these MPs are not voting with their conscience or with their constituents' opinions. They're voting the way their leaders tell them to, because if they don't, they'll get the sack. There's a disconnect between the political elite in our great country and the people. We've got three national papers now calling for a referendum. Every paper today has condemned David Cameron for using the three-line whip. As I say, he's abused democracy today. He'll win tonight. He'll win this battle. He's going to lose the war. People are not happy in this country. No one signed up. I'm 50, so anybody under the age of 54 hasn't had a vote on this. And certainly my dad, when he voted for a common market, he didn't vote for the United States of Europe. That's what British people are upset about. The political elite in Westminster might try and stop us, but eventually we will get a referendum and we will get out of the EU. And let me tell you, it's not our problem to sort out the problems in Greece. And tell me why we should work to the age of 72 or 73 to pay for Stavros, who lives in downtown Athens, to retire at 50. We shouldn't. We're not going to. It's the end. This Euro state is collapsing as we speak.
And Nigel Farage, UK Independence Party leader and a member of the European Parliament, says that the collapse of the whole EU project is just a matter of time.
I want a Europe where we cooperate together and work together and sign agreements together, not a Europe where we hand over the ability to make those decisions to a group of unelected bureaucrats. And on the argument of peace, which now the EU supporters have fallen back on because all their other arguments, frankly, have failed, look, what kept the peace in Europe after 1945 was not the EU. That didn't come along for many, many years. What kept the peace was NATO, an example of states cooperating together. And I would also argue the fact that we had the nuclear deterrent. And history shows you that if you take away from people their democracy, their ability to govern themselves, if you corral them together into new states without their consent, far from it leading to peace, the question now, in a deep recession and with unemployment at a 17-year high, is not can we afford to leave the EU, it's can we afford to stay. The whole Eurozone project is that what it's done, far from bringing people closer together, it's pushed people further apart. Not just for Sarkozy being rude to Cameron. We now have the Greeks abusing the Germans. They now burn EU flags in Athens openly with swastikas drawn on them. And we have the Germans slagging off the Greeks as being lazy and useless. And the irony of this project is far from us all becoming friends together in this new European house. Actually, we're beginning to argue and bicker in the most extraordinary way. You cannot take 27 different countries with 21 different languages, all with their own different histories and different forms of government. You cannot take them and force them into one unitary form of government without first getting their approval. That approval has never been given, and the European project actually is dying as we look at it. Oh, it may take many years, just as the Soviet Union did, But it's dying as we look at it, because right across Europe, the voters are saying, we don't want this model, we reject it.
And Conservative Party member of the Westminster Parliament, Patrick Mercer, says EU membership is harming Britain's sovereignty. His full interview is coming your way in about 20 minutes.
You're not going to get any warm words of praise from me about the European Union. It is damaging to the United Kingdom. We are a sovereign nation. Sometimes one wonders how much sovereignty we still show. What I hope is that Britain, in the same way that we very sensibly stayed out of membership of the euro itself, I hope that we continue to be sceptical about our further involvement with the EU.